we've already learnt about the Advent ring, the 4 candles, just to help people who wanted to have that in, 4 candles for each of the 4 Sundays in Advent, and then the central candle Christmas Day, when we recognize and celebrate Jesus as the light of the world. We've lit the first candle, those of us who have got an Advent wreath. We've lit the first one to remind us of hope, our Christian hope, a hope for the future. And in the Old Testament, it was a hope of a Messiah who was to come, who would rescue God's people from their oppression at the hands of others. And as Christians, we're in the privileged position of knowing that their hope was met in the birth of Jesus. He was the fulfillment of all that the Old Testament had been pointing them towards. And there are many passages that pointed them towards this coming event. Passages such as in Isaiah, where we read that the Messiah would be the suffering servant, pointing to how the Messiah would have to suffer in order that we might be free. And there are other passages, such as our Bible reading for this morning, from one of the minor prophets, one of the last books in the Old Testament, Micah. In chapter 5, he points us to the place where the Messiah would be born, Bethlehem. Lighting the candles on our Advent wreath is a way of reminding us of how we too are waiting to celebrate the coming of the Messiah, Jesus. That's what we'll be doing on Christmas Day, reminding us that Jesus came as the light of the world. But as I was thinking about this, I thought of other ways that we could, during this Advent season, prepare ourselves for Christmas. One way, and some of you may well be doing this, is to have an Advent candle with the days written down the side. And then, of course, each day, unlike the Advent wreath, which we light on a Sunday, each day we can light the day for that day. And we can let the candle burn down for that one day until we get down to the very bottom. And when we get to the bottom, of course, it will be Christmas Day. So that's one way, the Advent candle. Some of you, young people and families, you'll have one of those in your house now, and perhaps you'll start lighting it today, or maybe you'll buy one tomorrow. Some of the adults will also want to set aside a time each day during Advent to pray and to read the Bible. There's a number of different books that are published that help us to do that. This one was published by my theological college way back in 2013. And it was just equipping future leaders for Christian ministry and taking them through the season of Advent. And you can get other books online that would help you to do that, just to give you that opportunity to each day spend a little bit of time preparing in prayer for Christmas. But for many of you, there will be another way that you're going to be preparing for Christmas. But you're going to have to wait a moment. Over my 40 years as a vicar, I've been given a number of amusing keepsakes. One of them is this: a knitted doll. And yes, he's got a dog collar on and a cap. That was given to me by one of my church members. And it's also got a Bible tucked under his arm. But there is one that has been very special for me, and I've got him here. And he is a teddy bear. But he's not just an ordinary teddy bear. This teddy bear is complete with a bar of chocolate tucked into his hands. And the person who gave me this knew that I am, and you only have to ask the members of Energy Plus, they'll tell you, I am a chocoholic. And this teddy bear, as well as having a bar of chocolate, has a message written on a card round it. Well, it's a tile round his neck. And it says, there is nothing better than a good friend, except a good friend with chocolate. So he reminds me of the importance of friendship, and he reminds me the importance of chocolate. So have you guessed what the other way in which we might remember and prepare for Christmas? Well, before I share it with you and invite you to share your chocolate, I thought I would share with you something else, because as a chocoholic, I thought, well, I've got to have some sort of way of justifying being a lover of chocolate. And so I went to my Bible and I looked in to see if I could find the word chocolate mentioned in the Bible. Does anyone know or think where in the Bible we might find the word chocolate? Well, I hate to disappoint you, those of you who are like me, chocoholics, there is nowhere in the Bible that has the word chocolate. But I did find that there are certain chocolate bars mentioned in the Bible. And this gives me an encouragement as a chocoholic. In Exodus chapter 16 and verse 14, we read these words. It's part of the story of the Exodus and the feeding of the people in the wilderness. When the dew was gone, thin flakes, like frost on the ground, appeared on the desert floor. Flakes, Cadbury's flake. So that justifies me eating chocolate. Oh, and then in 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 12, we read these words. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. Another chocolate bar. Oh, I know it's spelt in a different way to Cadbury's Whisper Bar, but it's a whisper. And then thirdly, I found in Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 14, I will satisfy the priests with abundance, and my people will be filled with my bounty, declares the Lord. Bounty bars, another justification for me being an chocoholic. But I have a favorite. And this is in Judges chapter 14 and verse 6. It's about Samson. And one of the things that Samson did, Samson, we read, Samson tore the lion apart with his bare hands. The lion chocolate bar. He pulled off the wrapper and he ate it. Well, he didn't really, but it does again give me some sort of justification for being a chocoholic. So, if that's true, what have you thought as being the last of the ways in which we can think and prepare for Christmas? Of course, it's the Advent calendar. Now, the Advent calendar was begun in Germany in the early 19th century. It began as chalk marks on people's doors. They would put up 25 chalk marks, and then each day they'd rub one out until they got down to just one for Christmas Day. Then they moved on and they started making them out of wood with doors that could be opened to show winter scenes, snowmen, robins, or trees, or Father Christmas. It wasn't until the 1950s, and many of us are old enough to remember the 1950s. 1958 was when they made the first chocolate Advent calendar. And it became very important in our lives in the 1990s. So you see, it's not been going that long. And I just happen to have one here, a Galaxy chocolate Advent calendar. But there's one thing for a chocoholic that's wrong with my Advent calendar. Anyone guess what it might be? If you're children, you can tell your parents. If you're adults and you're in a couple, you could tell the person who's with you. If you're on your own, you'll just have to think about it yourself. But there's one thing wrong with it. There are only 25 windows to open, but there are 27 days to Christmas. So what is a chocoholic going to do? Well, I can tell you, that won't stop a chocoholic from working out a way round the problem. And if you've got an answer to that problem, put it in an envelope, put it through the church office door, and Jez can tell me what your answer is. So here is my chocolate Advent calendar. And as today is the first day of Advent, I'm going to open the first door, if I can find it. Can you find it, Meg? One. Oh, yes, one. Here it is. I'm not sure what's inside it. Oh, foil. Foiled at the first attempt. Oh, it's a chocolate. It's a tree. But as my friend reminds me, there is nothing like a good friend except a good friend with chocolate. So I'm going to share my chocolate with my best friend, with Meg. And if you have got your chocolate with you now, this is the moment when you can eat a piece of chocolate. Mmm. 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 Oh, I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow for another one. I'll have to work very hard at resisting that. Maybe I'll find some other way of filling in the other 2 days. Advent. Advent, a time of sharing. It's also a time for us as Christians to share the good news of the coming of the Messiah with others, so that they, like us, might be prepared to celebrate the real meaning of Christmas. So may God bless you as you do that over these coming days.